Hi! So the purpose of this video is to talk to you a little bit about consideration of special factors on the IEP page. So we're back in our practice student number 17, and this is the special factors page, and it's one of several pages of the IEP. Now in this section, we have to answer a couple of different questions, and based on how we answer it, then we might have to do something additional. So we're going to go through all of that. So I click on Edit this section. And now the first question is, do I have a student who is visually impaired, including blindness? We're going to go ahead and say yes. Now, if your student just has run-of-the-mill glasses, like a lot of us do, or reading glasses, that's not really what we're looking for here. We're looking for more about, do we need to use Braille or something similar to Braille or something like Braille in order to help with the visual learning. So if we click yes, we say yes, instruction in Braille is needed. Use of Braille is needed. Both are other. And if you click on other, it gives you a place to type something in. So let's say we go ahead and we say yes, and use of Braille and both. You save done editing. And one thing that you need to know is that in the state of New Mexico, if we do this, if we say yes, then we need to do what's called a Braille addendum at this point. In order to get to the Braille addendum, we're going to have to back out of this particular page of this document. So I take my breadcrumb trail back to Documents. I go to Create New Document. Scroll on down till I find Addendums. And this one is Addendum for Braille Instruction. So any student who's visually impaired, who might be blind, who might be deaf and blind, or might also have that as a secondary, they need to have this addendum. And so normally what I like to put in here is just the date, and so we're going to say and then through here, after going through a functional vision evaluation and learning media assessment or some such, you're going to be able to hone in more on what this particular student needs. So once that's done, and you've made the decision on Braille or Braille for all tasks, or that it's not appropriate and something else would be, then you would finalize this. And so you would need to finalize this along with your IEP document. But this is mostly about consideration of special factors, so let's go back to that and look at the next one. Go back to my special factors page. Now, does the student have special oral or written communication needs? And so one of the things that you need to think about, that this is more with the idea of, oh, that this person or this kid needs like an augmentative communication device. So basically they push a button and it speaks for them, or they use gestures or something like that. So just, for our students who may be having articulation only issues, this is not necessarily for them. They don't really have special oral or written communication needs in the way that this is thinking. So if we say yes, then we need to go ahead and describe the needs and the services provided. So for this student, we said practice student 17 has limited verbal skills. She can make vocalizations to communicate and uses the assistive device as well. All right, so this next one, is the student deaf or hard of hearing? Now, if we say yes, it says if yes, complete and attach the addendum for students who are deaf and hard of hearing, the communication form to the IEP. So I'm going to go ahead and show you where that is right now. Go back, go to Addendums, Addendum for deaf or hard of hearing, and then we have a lot of information that we can use to consider in our programming for the student. So oftentimes, if you're filling out this form, you have the assistance of a deaf and hard of hearing liaison, or possibly a speech language person who would also be able to be helpful in this as well. But for every student who is deaf and hard of hearing, that addendum has to be filled out. And it gets, the fact that you've done so ends up being reported to the state, and then they report it on to the federal government. All right, let's go ahead and look more at the special consideration factors, or special factors. So after that is, does the student have limited English proficiency? So the answer is either yes or no. But if the answer is yes, then you have to describe the relationship of the language needs and the services to be provided. And this is kind of a small space to do that. So remember, depending on the browser and see these three little lines right here, you can go ahead and you can open that box up so you can type as much as you need to go in here. And here's, I think, an area that we could really grow in order to assist in the outcomes of our students, is to be able to really hone in on how we're addressing language and the services that are provided in order to do so. So if you have a student who is limited English proficient, please make sure that you're getting somebody who can speak to that particular need in the IEP to help draft it. And then right here, it says, does the student need assistive technology needs? So the answer is either yes or no. And if you answer yes, then you have to describe the devices or services required. Now, technically, a pencil grip is an assistive technology device, but generally what they're looking here more is for something a little bit more robust than just your average pencil grip. So you can go ahead and put that information in there. And don't forget to put as an assistive technology device, that sort of thing, put it in the accommodations as well, especially if it is a pencil grip. The next question is, does the student exhibit behaviors that impede his learning or that of others? And if you answer no, then nothing shows up here. But if you answer yes, then it gives you some other options to choose from. So a lot of our students do have some behaviors that impede their learning or that of others. And for some of them, all they need are positive behavior intervention strategies and some accommodations in the IEP. Now, if that works for that particular student, you would click there. Other students, not only do they need to have some accommodations and strategies, but they also need to have goals. So it's something that we were targeting a lot more. And so you would go ahead and click on our annual goals, appropriate. And then they would be included in the IEP. Now, this next one is, does a functional behavior assessment need to be conducted? Now, one of the reasons that you do a functional behavior assessment is you want to determine whether a behavior intervention plan is appropriate, and if it is appropriate, what should go in that behavior intervention plan. So if a student already has a behavior intervention plan and you do not need additional information in order to continue with that plan, you would not check the FBA. You're only checking that if you need to conduct one this year. And if you do check that, make sure that you put in the prior written notice that you're proposing an FBA, and you put in the timeline of when it's also expected to be completed. And an FBA is an assessment, so you want to make sure that you are also getting a consent to evaluate, and you're putting that in as well. Now, there's an entirely different video on consent to evaluate, but I just wanted to put that out there. So we're going to go ahead and say for this purposes that we don't need one of these. We don't need an FBA. And then we have to choose that the student will follow a school-wide discipline plan. And that's what you would choose if you didn't have anything here. But let's say we do have some positive behavior interventions and we have some goals, then we would choose that one. The student requires modifications describing the IEP under annual goals and instructional accommodations. And we could also choose to click on the school-wide discipline plan. Now, of course, if that student does have a BIP, then they wouldn't be following the school-wide discipline plan because they'd be following the BIP. And you may still have some annual goals and instructional accommodations. And then always here, put the case manager. If you are the case manager, you are going to be the one who will need to inform all of the teachers and everyone else about any sort of BIP or accommodations or goals or whatnot. And that's generally the role of the case manager in any situation. So, we've gone ahead and moved on over to a checklist that you might be receiving from special education records. And you can see right here, there is consideration of special factors page. And so they're going to be checking to see that if you have an addendum for a child who's visually impaired, that you have that checked, yes. And then vice versa, of course. And the same with deaf and hard of hearing. And they're going to be checking the limited English proficient box as well. And then they're also probably going to be keeping an eye out for that BIP if you say that they need one. All right, so I hope this helps you understand a little bit more about the special consideration of special factors. I didn't go too in depth on this one. It was just more nuts and bolts about how it works in TieNet, but hopefully this is useful. And of course, you can always reach out if you have any more questions. Have a great day.